Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H virtual event space. The unicorn is back. Yes, today, Justin Benson from Aftershoot is joining us once again. We had him a while back to introduce Aftershoot, and he's got an update to the product now. So today we're going to be talking about Aftershoot EDITS. Yes, AI photo editing is here. Justin Benson, of course, a wedding photographer and co-founder of Aftershoot, joining us today. Justin, what's going on, man?
Hey, thank you so much for having me. What a great introduction.
That wasn't bad, right? You know, I'm over here. You had the good vibes going in the green room. I had to continue it. I'm like, let me not trip up on my words. Let me not trip up on my words. So we're here. We haven't had you on in a while. I know we had talked about this second session and you guys had something cooking for a while. We wanted to make sure we did it right. So you guys got it right. We're here finally. How does it feel?
Oh, it's awesome. I'm so excited to be back. I mean, it's been over a year. We introduced you guys to Culling just over a year ago. We said, okay, we're going to do our editing. We're going to show it off. And since that, it's even escalated and gone further. So we're really excited about all the things we've done.
That's awesome. Well, we're excited to have you back. Excited to hear what you have for us today. So I'm going to do what I do best and get out of the way. And I'll see you in a bit for some Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. My name is Justin. I'm the co-founder of Aftershoot. I am a wedding photographer who's been in the industry for far too long, about 13, 14 years of shooting weddings. I started off my career as a photographer doing architectural photography, and I was photographing sets for TV shows down in New York City. And then I got that call, hey, we need a wedding photographer. And then I dove in and I personally fell in love with wedding photography. And that's what dragged me here. So I did all my wedding photography. I got busy, hectic, put all the personal stuff on hold so that I can make sure I focused on all my clients. And then I had heard on the internet from a colleague of mine that there was a person looking to speak about AI culling. And I was like, yep, I want help culling. And so then I, connected with him via Instagram. That's Harshit, our founder. We connected via Instagram, and then we were best buds since, right? We went back and forth and did a bunch of things together, collaborated, and really pushed forth the best culling product. And it wasn't until March of 2021 when we realized, hey, we need to do AI editing too, right? We need to bundle the two together. It makes the most sense. We didn't love the offerings and what the space looked like at the time, and we wanted to do AI editing our own way. And without further ado, we just dove in and brought you what you're about to see, which is Aftershoot's AI editing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here with you all, and hopefully that's coming through. And so here we have our traditional Aftershoot home screen. So you'll notice that it's changed a little bit since the year and a half we were here. We've adapted and adjusted and added some new features. Even the culling has new features and new things available to users. So if you haven't tried our culling, if you haven't seen the improvements we've made over the past year, definitely do give it another try. I will try not to talk too much about the culling because we already did a full hour on that before, but I will give you a little bit of insight as to what it would look like. So we're going to dive into a culled album. It's already been culled. It's brought us from 1,100 images down to 438. And this is a really crucial part of the process. So for me, I'm going to actually take these photos out of Aftershoot and bring them into my editing software. Aftershoot Edits functions on Capture One. We're the only AI editing software available for Capture One. And we also function in Lightroom Classic. So currently those are our two offerings, and we're looking to expand those as well. But for the meantime, we're going to just go through Capture One. I personally, just through Lightroom. I personally don't use Capture One, so I wouldn't be the best person to teach you how to use it. But what I would do is simply just drag and drop my photos down into my Lightroom catalog. And what that'll do is prompt me to open up those 438 images in Lightroom. Now, I've already imported them, so it's not going to let me do that. But then all I would do is simply close my Lightroom catalog. So I'm going to quit out of that. And then I'm going to head right on back to Aftershoot. And from this home screen, you can see we have a Start Editing button, which is going to show us what we want to edit. So I just chose from recent. We edit these Lightroom catalogs currently. So I chose my most recent catalog in which I imported these images to. I add that catalog in, and then I simply just need to pick out what parts I want to edit. So the first thing I'm going to do is choose obviously the folder, or I could choose a collection if I would like to, but we'll just stick with the folder for this one. And I can then choose all of my different profiles that I have available. And I'll talk a little bit about how you can train it to edit like you versus using one of our pre-built styles as well. But I'm going to run it on my personal profile here. I'm going to turn off the crop and straighten because I've already run the cropping and straightening. We have this button here that allows you to apply the Lightroom preset from AI profile training. So if you've trained your own AI profile, if you use the preset as a starting point, you can have us apply that preset for you and then tweak on top of it just as you would if you were editing by hand. We usually recommend people leave this on because it can actually change the results and it can impact some things like color grading, which is one part of Aftershoot that we don't touch. So we won't do any color grading within the Lightroom panels or the Capture One panels, simply just because the numerations are infinite. And generally speaking, a lot of photographers using this software are kind of sticking with a single color grade that they apply across the photos. So we won't be doing the color grading. We also have an AI consistency layer. This AI consistency layer is designed to help even out your edits. So if you've built your own AI style and your editing is kind of bouncing around quite a bit, this will help you get a more consistent result out of it as well, which I'll leave turned off because my profile seems to do the trick as is. And so now that I've selected the folder that I want, I can also choose the filters. So I can choose whether I want to edit my RAWs and JPEGs or just the virtual copies or both. I can choose the star rating, the color label, whether it's a flagged image, whether I want to edit, a specific camera under a certain profile. I have all this customizability within how I'm choosing to edit my photos. And then I can simply click on edit and it's going to run through its process. It's going to generate us some previews first, and then it's going to open that Lightroom catalog, run the edits on the catalog, and process them that way. Now, a couple really exciting and amazing points that we always love to talk about. I can't physically show you because I would disconnect, but Aftershoot doesn't require Wi-Fi. So once you've trained an AI profile, everything exists on your computer. So you can run this AI editing, this AI culling. This can all be done without Wi-Fi, whether you're traveling on a plane or you're out in the wild on a hike and you just want to relax by the lake and do some editing. You can absolutely do this without Wi-Fi. Personally, I love to try and do some same-day sneak peeks with my clients. So during dinner at a wedding, I'll run through the culling, I'll run through the editing, and then I airdrop them to myself. And then I usually airdrop them to the couple if they have an iPad or an iPhone. I'll just airdrop them some photos before I even leave. And it's such just a nice personal touch to let them see these photos on the day, and I didn't have to do anything, right? The AI took care of the whole process for me. In a lot of venues I go to, there is no Wi-Fi, so I can't do that. But what you're watching is us edit 437 photos. So we'll open this up. I'll show you some of the results, and then I'll dip back here to show you the pre-built profiles versus building your own AI profile. And I'll teach you a little bit of the tips and tricks about that as well. So I don't know how long that was, but it definitely wasn't that long. We edited 437 photos, and we're going to open up our Lightroom catalog. The process is identical for Capture One. We can do this with your Capture One catalogs or sessions. We can learn your style. We can edit like you. And I'm going to, like I said, we edited just our 5-star photos. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on that. And I'm going to go into develop mode. So you're going to see, again, try not to judge too much. This is my personal style. It's a little bit warm. That's kind of how I design all my editing to look. But this is my personal AI profile. And I'll show you the before here and the after. So it just gave it that pop and that color and that adjustment that I normally would expect out of my images. And we'll scroll through and find a couple more. And I also have a lot of these pre-built profiles as well. So here's just another version of it. I had them just kind of close their eyes and look into the sun. And again, it's just giving me that nice little pop and bringing out the colors the way I would expect them to be. And same here. Again, just doing all that heavy lifting for me. So again, the before versus the after is really fantastic. And I could probably just show it to you using this as well. So you can kind of get a good feel for what it looks like before we get started and after Aftershoot runs through and does all of its magic. Now, the way the AI editing works is that it's going to learn from your past edits if you're training it on your own style. So what that means is that we're looking for you to upload past Capture One catalogs or Lightroom catalogs to our servers for us to start analyzing these photos and understanding what adjustments you make in different conditions. And why this is important is because a lot of people think, oh, I have to give it my best work. It's portfolio only images that it will learn from. But realistically, we want it to learn from just what you expect it to do. So if you're looking to have the AI only, edit portfolio looking images out of your portfolio looking days, you can build a profile like that. But if you expect to do this sort of stuff where you're underexposing, or you have some harsh sunlight, or you have some weird, things going on with the lighting, you want to show it examples of that. You want it to learn what you expect it to be able to do. A prime example is something like fluorescent lighting. A lot of photographers don't necessarily shoot in fluorescent lighting too often. So when they don't teach the AI how to edit in fluorescent lighting, they're kind of surprised that it doesn't know what to do when it sees fluorescent lighting. But you edit your fluorescent lighting images quite different than you would, say, daylight or off-camera flash. So you want to make sure that you're giving your AI profile some examples of that fluorescent lighting if you expect it to be able to handle that sort of stuff. And we're going to just keep scrolling through here and show you some more, just again, before and afters, handling some of the harsh light. It's bringing up the shadows as I would expect it to, and bringing my highlights way down. And if I were to go through the set, you can see it's actually individually editing every single image, right? So it's not batch editing a whole series. It's not syncing them across. It's actually looking at each individual photo and adjusting for those subtle nuances. For myself, I shoot on a 70-200 and a 24-70 most of the time. So it's going to find that when I zoom in at 200, the light's a little bit different than when I'm zoomed out at 70. And so it's going to adapt and adjust to every subtle movement of the zoom lens in and out, or every subtle movement of the subject through the light in the scene, to make sure that it applies a somewhat consistent edit across everything. So this is truly a huge, huge advantage to have as a photographer in your tool set. Again, you can see here, very underexposed because I was trying to keep some of the highlights into the building, and it did that, right? It went through, it pulled the shadows, it gave them a nice overall tone. Here you can see it significantly corrected the white balance for me and got me back towards a much, much warmer tone as I would expect. And then we can go to like off-camera flash and see how it does in off-camera flash. Again, it's just editing based on my style. Now, I had mentioned that we have some pre-built profiles available. We actually have 28 different styles available for photographers, and we're constantly adding more. So what this means is that you could take one of our pre-built profiles and edit to your style or the style of the pre-built profile by simply downloading that profile in Aftershoot. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, and then I'll come back here and show you the actual results of some of these pre-built profiles. So we're going to head to the top here where it says Marketplace. And what's going to happen is it's going to show me all of our pre-built profiles that we currently have available. So there's the 28 different styles. I can click on preview on any one of these styles and actually get to see firsthand what the before and after image would look like using a profile like this. Or I can head back and go find something a little bit simpler, like our gray card profile, which just does a basic color correction to your images. Again, giving you a nice head start on the overall look of your photos. So again, these are really, really vital. They're free to use, so you can absolutely give them a shot. Try any one of these profiles that you would like out and see how they go. So once I've clicked on start editing, it's going to, again, just prompt me to import that catalog or connect a catalog that I'd like to edit. And I could edit using any one of those pre-built profiles. We're going to pop back to Lightroom and I'll show you what they actually look like in real life terms. So here's our walnut profile. So again, giving you a little bit more of a blue tint to everything, kind of cooling things down. Here's pistachio. If you're starting to feel hungry for ice cream, here's vanilla. It was intentional. All of our profiles are named after different varieties of ice cream. Here's your brownies profile, your lemon, hazelnut, fudge fervor, mood berry mousse, Krispy Kreme, gray card bold, which is our gray card, our basic white balance, looking for a true to life white balance, our berry blast, which is quite an extreme look, our vanilla glow, which warms things up quite nice, icy crunch, creamy ripple, vanilla roar, honey crisp, vanilla whisper, courtroom caramel, cinematic sundae, caramel fudge, sprint sundae, mocha mystique, and dreamy drizzle. So these are just a handful. There's 28 total. So a little shy of 28 in this little example here. But you can see it's just being able to take a basic photo and just get it stylized in a variety of looks with a few clicks of a button, right? It's amazing. So this is my personal black and white profile that's going to be available soon as well. So a higher contrast profile. And these looks work across all different images, right? So you can basically throw it any conditions that you expect, whether it's an indoor wedding, a church wedding, family session, boudoir, window light, whatever it may be. You can absolutely take any one of these pre-built profiles and get these different looks across all of them. And again, they're all edited individually. So you won't find that it's one like preset that's applied to all the images. It's rather all of the adjustments individualized for each photo while applying a specific style to the images. So think of it as your preset on steroids, giving you all these different looks. And so for me personally, I always stick with my profile. It's just an established look that I've created for my brand. It's a little bit warm, a little bit high contrast. And so what I'm going to do is actually show you how we go about building your own custom profile. So we recommend a minimum of 5,000 images, but you can get started with as few as 2,500 photos. And the reason being that we recommend 5,000 is that we want to see the most conditions that we can. The more variety, the more different instances you expect us to edit, we want to be able to understand how you would edit those images. And the way it works is we would just click on plus new profile. We would name it B&H. Where's the thing? Ampersand. We'll name it B&H here, and we could choose whether it's a raw profile or a JPEG profile. And this is based on what you shot in camera. Obviously, we edit JPEGs a little bit different than we would edit our raw images. So we're going to go ahead and choose the raw files here because I shoot in raw and edit the raw images themselves. The next thing we have to do is decide whether we want a color or a black and white profile. Unfortunately, we can't mix the two just because you would expect images to be in color or black and white, and the AI wouldn't be able to decide that for you. Next thing we're going to do is actually choose the catalogs we want to train this profile on. So I'm going to go back to some older catalogs of mine and just pick out a few images here. I'll add those catalogs in, and I will go through that same process that I showed before with the editing. I would simply choose either some collections here, which I can actually choose the specific collections that are totally done. That's how I do my categorization of these images. I just say, hey, these are done, these are done, these are done. So I can just pick out a handful of weddings that I personally love and I think are all varied. So some are indoor, some are outdoor, some are cloudy days, some are sunny. Again, the data that you input into this profile is going to have a massive effect on the outcome. So if you're only showing it what it looks like when you edit on a sunny day, it's going to become really biased towards editing on a sunny day. So if you were to give it a cloudy day session to edit, it's going to edit it like it was a sunny day just because that's all it really knows. And the best way to look at it is your AI profile is essentially just that human being that you can't talk to. These magical unicorns, you can't sit down and say, okay, when you see this condition, you want to adjust these sliders and do this and that. It's the assistant that you have to say, here's 500 photos edited at sunset. Learn how I edit at sunset through these 500 different photos. And what it'll do is actually go through and learn the different processes. And we'll continue on down here. We're going to just pick out two more. So we get to that number. So now I have roughly 8,000 photos that are 9,000 photos that are available to upload. So I would simply just click on upload. And again, this is the same process, whether you're using Capture One or Lightroom. We just need those catalogs and we need access to either the raw images or smart previews. So do make sure that you have those images on hand attached to your computer. And now I can also apply some filters here. If I only want my 5-star images to get uploaded, I can absolutely tell it only 5 stars. I can choose if I want to ignore certain cameras. Let's say I have a second shooter who I don't want the AI to learn anything from because I fired them or whatever it may be. So I can absolutely go about that and kind of filter these things down to get it to a much more stable and realistic number. And then I would simply click on upload and these files would head right on up to the server. And then in a couple hours, I'd be getting an email letting me know my AI profile is ready to edit with. And so I'm going to just pop back over here and we'll run through one more time just what it looks like to run these edits. So again, you're going to take these images out of Aftershoot. You need to bring them into your Capture One or Lightroom catalogs. We want to make sure that they're in a catalog because what we do is actually edit those catalogs. So we'll go ahead and start editing with this catalog. I'll select from recent. So I can just choose any one of the catalogs that I want to edit here. And then I would just choose my AI profile. I can choose the color profile. If it's a custom, if it's my own AI profile, I can choose whether I want to use a specific color profile or not. I can choose to crop and straighten. And then again, I just have to choose what images I want to run through edits and click on edit. And there we go. So that is Aftershoot edits in a nutshell. I think I'm going to invite Derek back in because I don't want to talk too much about culling unless we have the time.
Yes, definitely. I was going to tell you, if you want to dive in a little bit, even if you wanted to go into any of the updates that we've seen. I mean, it looks like such a cool platform. I love even when you had the other screen on and as the Aftershoot and you, like the history there. I
Yeah.
love
Oh,
it.
yeah.
It's the little things that we
Okay.
like about. Yeah, I
I
mean,
love it. Cool.
we got plenty of time.
All right, good. I was like, I don't want to take up too much time, but I'm happy to always talk about culling because that's something that we've made a lot of significant changes to in the past year and a half. So what I'll do is actually dive in and I'll show you some of the new things that we've added. So first and foremost, we've totally revamped our entire process. So everything's a little bit faster, everything's a little bit more intuitive, but we've also changed our culling preferences. So if you were watching about a year and a half ago, we had a bunch of different buttons and you would click on buttons and choose different parameters for your cull. We've actually simplified this so that you can walk in and choose if you want less images or more images. So the AI will automatically go through, select those photos for you. We have some new algorithms that we've included. We've added some new genres as well. So if you are a sports photographer, we've been working heavily on increasing our ability to capture sports photography. We're currently working quite a bit on animals as well. That's been a pretty largely requested for pet photography and wildlife photography. So we're working on some of those categories. We have a brand new school portrait category. And the school portrait category is really cool because what it does is it actually looks at the humans in the photo. So what it'll do is it'll say, okay, this is one human, and here are 5 different poses from that one human. So we're going to show you one of every pose from those 5 poses. And then we'll show you the QR code if you're using QR codes or your name tag labels. We'll keep those as well. So you know that each student plus the 5 poses are included, and then you'll go to the next one. So this is really cool. I know it's school portrait season, so there's probably a lot of people out there struggling with that massive workload. So we totally revamped that based on user feedback that we got at a couple conferences this past year. So that's a brand new tool available to you guys as well. Now, we do still have the customizability available, so you can still use the custom features. So here we do have the ability to choose how we put similar images together, whether you want to have, just the almost identical photos put together, or if you want us to put together like different poses and try and pick the best ones out of that, you can select that on this screen as well. We introduced some brand new blur models as well. So you'll see here, you do have the ability to choose whether you'd like it to be a strict or lenient selection. So when you're talking about blur, we're talking about things like, motion blur, focus and sharpness on the subject of the image. So if you were to set it to lenient, you're saying it's okay if it's a little bit of a softer image, if it has good emotion, it's still technically in focus, but it's just maybe not tack sharp. Whereas if you were in a studio setting and it's going in a magazine, you need it to be on strict because you want it to be tack sharp imagery only. And of course, you can turn off any one of these filters. You can turn off the closed eyes. You could turn off the blur as well. And then you would simply click on start culling and it would run through and do its thing. And that lands us on this screen. So on this screen, you can see we had 1,100 photos and we reduced it down to 438. I ran it a little bit lenient just to show off some of these other features we have available now. So we heard a lot of feedback from our users. Aftershoot, we have 24-hour in-app support. There's up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll find not only the support, you'll find the request a feature button. So we read every single feature request and see what we can do to implement it and how we can make it work. One of the biggest feature requests we got was this My Selections tab. So users were asking us for the ability to let the AI say reduce the image count by 700 photos like it just did, but then they only want 100 photos for their client. They want to be able to pick out their own special category of images. So we added this My Selections tool, which allows you to simply click on the photos, whether you click on the circle or you use the keyboard shortcut D, it'll add these photos to our own little selection category. That was a huge feature to us because a lot of people, again, they want to use that traditional add images into your favorites category, like you would use in a photo mechanic or an other culling software. So we implemented that to give users the ability to still train the AI, because the AI does continue to learn from you the more you tweak your results. So if you're using the My Selections feature, the AI is actually going to learn what images you're preferring over other images. So it'll still learn, but you can use it more like a photo mechanic where you're just picking out your favorite photos. In addition to that, we had a lot of people asking for spray can mode. This is one of my favorites, because now I'm able to actually set it to either reject, add. In this case, I'm going to set it to my selections. So if I left click on a photo, it's going to add it to my selections. And then I can actually set it so that it rejects any photo that I right click on. So then I can simply go through and just click on my personal favorite photos. So I can say, oh, I like this photo. I'm going to click on that one. And I can decide if I want to just add a couple more and then maybe reject this one because I hate it, right? So I have this ability to just use my mouse to go through and cull my images. Now, spray can mode also works on those duplicate photos. So I can use the period and comma key to cycle through all my similar images. So this image was marked as blur. This one is just duplicate. This one's duplicate. So I could still say, hey, I like this duplicate photo better and add it to my selections. And you'll see in the My Selections category, it's actually showing me that yellow 4-star duplicate image as my selection. So again, just a faster way to get through the manual review process, because we know that photographers love to be in touch with the photos that they're, culling. It's really hard to let AI kind of take over and do its whole thing and then walk away and say, yep, AI is just as good as me. But really what we're able to do is find tools to help photographers review the AI process a little bit faster and get through things quite a bit quicker. And that's, huge when it comes to culling, editing, and bundling these two together, because as I mentioned, you simply just drag and drop these selected photos, or in this case, we could drag and drop the 5 photos we want to edit directly into Lightroom or Capture One, and then run the editing right from there. Again, all without Wi-Fi, all unlimited. That's kind of one of the big things that we preach here at Aftershoot, is that we want everything to be unlimited. We don't want you to ever have to pay per image. That's why everything's done locally on your computer. It allows us a lot more flexibility in pricing. So you're able to buy in at a flat rate, knowing that no matter how much you cull, no matter how much you edit, you never pay $1 more for anything. You always just have one flat rate going into your entire busy season or your whole shoot year. And with that, Derek, I think I got us up to 30 minutes.
Wow. Dude, it's mind blowing. I mean, for any AI doubters, this is a perfect example of how AI is great. It takes everything. I'm sitting here as you were presenting, and I'm like, a lot of what why I don't shoot these kinds of things, couples, weddings, all that stuff, is not the events themselves. It's the editing. It's the thousands of images. It's going through. And after you pick out the 5-10 images that you love, you're stuck with, I gotta go through the rest of them. And that's where you really dread the process. This takes all of that out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, looking at this set of photos, I could just export 90% of these, right? I wouldn't even have to adjust anything. It's learned my style. It's learned what I want to do. I would maybe come into a photo like this. I noticed before, I would maybe want to turn the exposure down, maybe do a sky mask or something. I get more freedom to play, which is really cool, because as a photographer, when you start in this industry, you're joining in, you're expecting to have the best time of your life. You're your own boss, you're shooting, you get to do everything that you want to do. And then you get buried in that backlog and it's all bets are off, right? It's I got to get my clients' photos done. I can't, delay any longer. And for me, it meant that I kind of fell out of love with just taking pictures to take pictures, right? I lost the inspiration, the creativity. I didn't want to play around with moments like this where the light is really harsh and it's difficult to use. But it wasn't until this past year, when we launched this editing, that I was like, you know what? I can get weird with some things. I can play with light. I can try some harsher light on the couple. And I only really realized it because I started taking pictures of my kids again. So I just started
Mm.
carrying my camera around because, again, I'm not culling or editing the pictures of my kids. AI is doing that for me as well. So I started going in and saying, okay, what can I do? Like what kind of fun pictures can I take of my kids and just kind of get some of that inspiration and that excitement back? And like, so this is the exact moment where I discovered that, like, hey, I should be playing with light the way I used to, right? I should go through and find these little pockets of light and put my subjects in harsh light. And again, this is all just because Aftershoot was there, culling and editing. I would have never brought my camera out for this, right? I was like, we were at a museum, but I was like,
I
hey,
love
we're
that.
going to the museum. I'm gonna bring my camera. Why not? And that's how it works. Like, it's just that inspiration and that excitement that I personally got back. So I'm hoping that a lot of photographers can find some inspiration in this and feel comfortable using AI to get that passion and that excitement back in their work.
I love that. I'm glad you brought this example up because I did want to ask you. I mean, it's one thing, it's kind of like a home run softball when you're talking about weddings where it's like, okay, we know how weddings are shot. A million pictures here, a million pictures here, a million pictures here. It's all the same stuff. So it's more, it makes sense for culling software because it's like, okay, I have 5 of the same pose, 10 of the same, 10 of the same, 5 of the same, 3 of the same, 3 of the same. When you're shooting something that like family, like here, like a trip to the museum, where I'm guessing you're not sitting there, you're not taking 20 pictures of the same pose and then 10 pictures and then 5 pictures. It's kind of just here, there. How does it function in that regard? I mean, I'm guessing it would be even easier. It's the software's still doing the same, but it's even easier on you.
Yeah, well, that's the best part is that there's no expectation, right? So when I take the
Mhm.
camera out and I go to I go to the museum with my kids, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna bring my camera. If I take some cool photos, that's cool. If I don't, oh well. So I'm not like expecting to deliver anything. I took 784 photos. The AI brought it down to 281, right? So I definitely
Wow.
took some similar photos, right? But it gave me a really great starting point. And there's still a lot of junk in here, right? There's a lot of stuff that I don't care about. It was just like, oh, I'm gonna snap a quick shot and see if something comes out of it. But realistically, I'm not dealing with all of that workload, right? This is just a fun family photo shoot. I have everything imported into the software, into Lightroom. So I have everything. So I could look at a photo like this and say, oh, is there maybe a less funny or goofy position, or is there something else I could, run here? So I have the option and the flexibility, but I have a really abbreviated set of images that I can just go through and play with, right? See what I love, see if I want to try. Like, I ran all the profiles on these photos as well, right? So I have a whole bunch of different looks available to me without having to do anything. I can just play, have a little bit of fun. And again, it's a no pressure situation. Just if I get a great photo that I want to hang up, and that's what this is, right? This is that one photo where I'm like, yeah, that speaks to me. I want that on the wall. And it's not something I would have ever done without AI.
I love that. How often are you going through and in training, I guess you can use it as where you're going through and taking the pictures that weren't selected and say, no, I like this one. Is it something where you're constantly training the software? Or is it kind of, do you ever hit a point where of comfortability where you're like, I'm just going to trust the software on this?
Yeah, so for myself, now at the last wedding I delivered, it was 98.7% of the photos chosen by Aftershoot were the ones that my clients actually got. So there was
Wow.
extra photos that I didn't need, right? There was stuff that I don't want. And that's by design. Aftershoot is meant to show you a whole representation of your day, right? We want to, if you're shooting a wedding and you take 4 photos that are out of focus, we don't really know why you did it. We can't tell if you're a Nikon shooter, if you're, sorry, Nikon shooters, I shoot Nikon. We can't tell if it was a creative decision. We don't really know why you took 4 out of focus photos. So we show you that out of focus photo. We want you to see it. We want you to know that it's there. Maybe it was a creative decision. I mean, like the current Rage is kind of doing some of that motion blur. Maybe that is the photo that you really wanted or you were trying to achieve. So we do show you a representation of everything. So you will always get extra photos, but yeah, for me, like 98.7%, I swapped out like a handful of photos, and I'll tell you, they were all photos in which the couple was really small, like a big environmental portrait, and the couple's like a little speck on the horizon. And that's just because I needed to open it up in Lightroom and zoom in at 300% to even see if like the couple had their eyes open, right? Like they're just so small. So I wouldn't expect the AI to handle that part of it. But to be that close, right? To only have to change like 20 images out of 1,000 is crazy.
Oh yeah, that's wild. I mean, even if you said 90%, it's like that's way better. I don't think anybody ever expects perfection out of AI, not at this juncture. But any time
Absolutely.
you're saving is definitely, I mean, that's a huge chunk of time. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. If you can get, so sorry, if you can, if you can get a if you can get these photos, let's say cut in half, right? If we reduce your
Yeah.
workload by 50%, if you were spending 2 hours culling a wedding and we got you down to 1 hour, that's still 1 hour of time you get back. Or like a family session. For me, the family sessions are the worst because you have like hundreds of faces, everybody's looking in all different directions, and like the key face feature of Aftershoot, it just changes everything, right? I mean, it gives you that nice close-up of all the faces, and it'll show you all the faces in the photo that are near in focus, right? So if you were to take a family photo with 47 people in it, you'll have 47 faces appear here. So just being able to glance at something like that and see, you know, how the faces are looking at the camera, if their eyes are open, if everyone's smiling, like just having that tool in your pocket saves you a lot. And realistically, like it's really good at picking out those family photos. So really, I click on it and I look at the faces once to make sure that I agree with the decision, and then I move on.
Wow, that's awesome. Now the thing is the camera to cloud. You have Frame.io. I'm a Fujifilm shooter personally, so Frame.io and the camera to cloud has been a big thing with Fujifilm. But it's starting to get out there more with the other camera brands. Is that something that you guys possibly see on the horizon where people are shooting camera to cloud, and as the images are coming in, they're being loaded into AI culling software?
Yeah, we have a huge roadmap ahead of us. A lot of it's top secret, but yeah, there's a lot of places that we see integrations and collaborations, and you know, we're really lucky because as a company, you know, one half of that company being a photographer, I'm always, my foot's in the industry still. I still shoot weddings. I'm still involved in sessions. I'm at all the trade shows, which congratulations on the amazing B&H show.
Thank you.
So we're at all of these events, we're everywhere, we're talking to photographers, so we're kind of in tune to where the industry is going already, and we're looking at that and looking at ways to essentially help with that. As I mentioned, like that request a feature button, we look at every single request and say, is this possible? Is this something that a lot of people need? Is it something that's realistic? And then we take that information and run with it, and try and build a better product out of it. So being in the Aftershoot camp, it's really a family, right? It's a way to change the future of photography by being involved in it. When you tell us, hey, it should work like this, or it should be priced like this, we take all of that feedback and try and implement it and make it work, which is cool. I don't think there's been a time, at least in my short tenure of 13 years, where the industry changed to a point where like photographers actually could put their hands in and say, like, this is how I want AI editing, culling. This is how I want this stuff to actually operate in the industry.
It's awesome. It's completely for the industry, by the industry. And I think that's the coolest part is, with that request a feature, it's you have people behind the software that are doing it. You have it firsthand. You have a huge network of people that you're dealing with, that you're, especially, in the wedding industry. It's like, you guys are always talking. Everyone's always bouncing ideas and griping and, this is what we need. This is what drives
I'm
us
not
crazy.
sure if I'm offended or not. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's
I've
true.
been in more than a couple wedding Facebook groups. But yeah, that's the stuff that you have to get out there. You have to have those conversations, and what makes it easier and more intuitive, because look, there's only so many weekends in a year. And I think if you can free up as much time as possible, you guys are the ones that are out there working on the weekends. You're working when nobody else wants to work. And I think freeing up time is that can't be understated.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, realistically, any single photographer, it doesn't really matter what your genre, right? If you're able to buy back a little bit of time on every session, it just means that you have more flexibility in everything you do, whether you want to take that time and go market your business more, or you want to take that time and go spend it with family, or you want to take that time and go on a hike. it's yours, but it's your time. So if we can give you some of that back, if we can kind of instill that feeling of like, hey, I'm my own boss. And yes, I may work on Saturdays, but Monday through Friday, I don't need to sit in front of the computer for 12 hours a day. Like, let's do it, right? Let's uplift the industry and let's give it back. I mean, how many of us are looking at a down year for 2024? I mean, it seems like a lot of us are, a lot of wedding photographers in particular, they're not booking as much because of the gap year. So they're kind of in this struggle of like, hey, I don't have as much work next year. How can I market better? What networking events can I attend? And this is a great opportunity. We're in busy season now. But like I said, this engagement session, I didn't review the cull. I'll take about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to review the cull, and then I'll run it through the editing for the final pass. I'll have it done within like 30, 40 minutes of work. Right. And that's huge to be in the busy season and be able to do that. For weddings, for me personally, it was like 15 to 20 hours before. I'm down to about 3. So I could finish a wedding, culling, editing, out the door in about 3 hours, which to me is like, it's absurd. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing because it took a lot of pressure off me. So I'm kind of just like, I don't have to do it today. It's only 3 hours, right? I'm just like that serial procrastinator at this point. But really, like, knowing that it only takes 3 hours to get something done, it's mind-boggling. I had a flight to Canada last week or 2 weeks ago, and I edited 2 weddings. It was a 6-hour flight. I edited one, culled and edited one, culled and edited another. Like, first length of the flight, connection, second length of the flight, 2 weddings done, which is like, it's wild.
That's awesome. Wow, Justin, this is super exciting. Always good to have you on. I look forward. We're gonna have to get you back in a couple months and see where you guys are at, if there have been any other changes. But this is super exciting. And again, I think you said it best before, where you said it's not just anybody who wants to save themselves time. I mean, you're a wedding photographer, and this works great for wedding photographers, but this is something that commercial photographers, anybody who's sitting there and has to deal with a bunch of images, can use, which what photographer doesn't, other than the film photographers working 36 frames at a time. But for everyone else, this is great. So Justin, always great to have you on, man. It's always good vibes. Now I got to track you down at a show. So you can't shave the mustache, because if you don't have the stash, I won't be able to find you.
It's always there. Just look
There
for, we usually have a big inflatable unicorn wherever we are. So
there you go. I'm going to keep my eyes out. I think WPPI is probably the next thing I'll be at industry wise, but Justin, huge thank you to you and the rest of the Aftershoot team for bringing us another great product here. And to all of you out there watching, listening, thank you for always doing so. Another round of the B&H virtual event space now in the books. Catch you on next time.